Hello and welcome back to another true crime segment on Exploring with Ash and Jake. Today we're going to be talking about the grocery bag killer. So without further ado, let's hop into the story. I know you all are waiting. Robert Lee Yates Jr. was born May 27th, 1952, also known as the grocery bag killer. He's an American serial killer from Spokane, Washington. From 1975 to 1998, he was known to have murdered at least 11 women in Spokane. He also confessed to 2 murders he committed in Walla Walla in 1975 and a 1988 murder that he committed in Skagit County. In 2002, Yates was convicted of killing 2 women in Pierce County and sentenced to death, but it was commuted to life without parole after the Washington Supreme Court ruled capital punishment unconstitutional. In 2018, he is currently serving a life in prison at the Washington State Penitentiary. Robert Lee Yates grew up in Oak Harbor, Washington, in a middle-class family. They attended a local Seventh-day Adventist church before his birth. His grandmother had murdered his grandfather with an axe in 1945. Yates graduated from Oak Harbor High School in 1970, and in 1975 was hired by the Washington State Department of Corrections to work as a correction officer at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. In October of 1977, Yates enlisted in the United States Army, where he became certified to fly a civilian transport airplanes and helicopters. Yates was also stationed in various countries outside the continental United States, including Germany and later Somalia and Haiti. During the United Nations peacekeeping missions of the 1990s, Yates also served 3 years in the Army National Guard as a helicopter pilot from April 1997 through April 2000. He earned several commendation and service medals during his military career, including the U.S. Army Master Aviator Badge. Yates left the active duty Army in April of 1996, apparently a year and a half after being eligible for his full retirement benefits and pension. At the time, the military was reducing its numbers, so he received full retirement despite being short of his customary 20 years served. He then joined the Army National Guard in April of 97 and served 3 years until his arrest in April of 2000. He served a total of 21.5 years in the military. He has 5 children, 4 daughters and 1 son, with a second wife, Linda, who he married in 1976. The children's birth years range from 1974 to 1989. Robert Lee Yates committed his first murders in 1975 when he shot and killed 2 college students who were picnicking. Many of the subsequent victims were sex workers working along the East Sprague Avenue who had substance abuse issues, and Robert Lee Yates would often do drugs with the sex workers. Yates initially solicited the victims after having intimacy with them. Often in his Ford van, he would kill them and then dump their bodies in rural locations. All of his victims who died of gunshot wounds to the head or heart. 8 of the murders were committed with a Rabin .25 caliber handgun, and 1 attempted murder was linked to the same model of handgun. On September 19, 1988, Yates was asked to give a DNA sample to the Spokane police after being stopped. He refused, stating that it was too extreme of a request for a family man. On July 14, 1975, the bodies of Patrick Oliver, 21, and Patricia Savage, 22, were found shot in the head near Walla Walla. They were at the last seen the day before on their way to an afternoon swim picnic. On December 28, 1988, the partial skeleton of Stacy Hahn, 23, was found near Big Lake. She was last seen on July 7, 1988, in Seattle. Yates confessed to picking up Hahn, who was working as a sex worker, in his van nearby. Again, on June 14, 1996, Shannon Zulinski, 38, was found shot in the head in Meade. He Her partially nude body was badly decomposed and dumped in a wooded area near a school bus stop. Zielinski had a lengthy criminal record and worked as a sex worker. On August 26, 1997, the body of Heather Hernandez, 20, was found in an overgrown lot in Spokane. She was shot 5 days earlier, according to the detectives. Hernandez had only recently come to the area and within a few weeks was arrested for sex work. On August 26, 1997, Jennifer Joseph, 16, was found shot in the head in a field in Spokane. Police believed a brown towel and a brown hair belonging to a white male at the scene after Joseph's parents divorced. She dropped out of high school and moved to Tacoma. She started using methamphetamine and became involved in sex work. She was killed just a month after arriving in Spokane. On November 5th, 1997, the partially decayed remains of Darla Scott, 29, were found in a shallow grave near the golf course in Spokane. Scott, who had a history of drugs and sex work, died of a gunshot wound to the head in September or October. On December 7th, 1997, Melinda Mercer, 24, was found shot and dumped in a field in Tacoma. She had been shot several times and had 4 plastic bags covering her head. At Yates' trial, it was revealed that even after she was shot in the head, the Mercer had chewed through 2 of the bags before succumbing to her injuries. Mercer did not have a criminal record nor any ties to sex work and reportedly worked as a waitress. On December 18th, 1997, the body of Shawn Johnson, 36, was found with 2 gunshot wounds and 2 plastic bags covering her head, about a mile from the remains of Darla Scott. She had been missing since October 29th of 1997. On December 26, 1997, the bodies of Sean McLean, 39, and Lori Wasson, 31, were found in a gully in Spokane. Both women were shot twice in the head, and their heads were wrapped with plastic bags each. Wasson was last seen on November 3rd and was the devoted mother of a 12-year-old son until a relapse with heroin unraveled 6 years of sobriety, and she began working as a sex worker to fund her substance abuse. McCallahan also struggled with heroin and was arrested early November for forging a check during a binge. She had been missing since December 18th. McCallahan also had passion for Winnie the Pooh and loved to attend auctions and yard sales. She was always the one who would help the neighbors. She was always real giving, said her brother, Patrick McCallahan. She married 4 times and had a son. Her sister, Kathy Lloyd, a teacher in Spokane, said an addiction to painkillers Sean took for an arm injury led to a life of heroin and on the streets. She worked in a hospital laboratory but had to quit because of her injury. I told her that I was really truly worried about her safety, said Lloyd. She said, "Don't worry, I can take care of myself." And I, of course, believed her. In early December of 1997, Lloyd received a birthday card from her sister telling her how hard it was on the street. But the card bore good news to Sean. She had accepted into a methadone program and was determined to leave her life of drugs. Then Christmas arrived and Lloyd didn't hear from her sister. "We did everything humanly possible to get Sean away from drugs," she said. She wasn't working on Sprague because she wanted to. Lori Wasson was bred and trained Rottweilers. She also operated an adult family home and was licensed by the state. On February 8, 1998, Sonny Oyster, 41, was found shot to death in an identical manner as McCallahan Wasson in a rural area of Spokane. Oyster, mother of 2, was last seen in October. She disappeared the day after completing a drug treatment program. On April 1st, 1998, the remains of Linda Mabin, 34, also known as the Barefoot Linda, was found in Spokane, just 100 yards from the bodies of Sean McCallahan and Lori Wasson. She was shot once and had 2 plastic bags covering her head. Maven had been working as a sex worker and had been missing since November 22nd of 1997. Sometime in mid-May of 1998, Melody Murfin, 43, went missing. She was considered to be the victim of the same killer due to her history and the association with the other victims. But her body was not discovered until 6 months after Yates' arrest and subsequently confession. She was buried beneath his bedroom window. On July 7th, 1998, Michelin During, 47, was found shot once in her head in Spokane. The .25 caliber bullet causing was still in her hair. She was found nude and partially obscured by hot tub cover. Michelin Durning was the daughter of Marine Corps colonel. She grew up as a military brat, graduating from high school in Virginia and attending Palmer College in California before moving to nearby San Diego to be executive secretary. She married and had a son, but drugs cost her marriage. She lost custody of her son. She moved to Spokane in 97, working in a variety of jobs, from ranch hand to nursing assistant. At one point, she renewed her friendship with the computer instructor she had met in San Diego. He helped her find an apartment and befriended her, but later moved away to Arizona. On August 1st of 1998, Christine Smith filed a police report for assault and robbery after she was hit in the head during a sex act. She described the man, about 50 years old, 5'10", tall, 175 pounds, with sandy blonde hair. His vehicle was described as a 70s-era black van with an exterior yellow-orange striped bucket seats, wood paneling, and raised bed. Smith also told police that the man told her he was a National Guard helicopter pilot and had 5 children. Police discovered bullet fragments in her hair. Smith was unaware that she was actually shot. Upon seeing Yates' photo in the newspaper following his arrest, Smith contacted the police and identified Yates as the man who assaulted her. She was only known survivor of Yates' crimes. On October 13th, 1998, the body of Connie Ellis LaFontaine, 35, was found in a ditch in Tacoma. She was shot once in the head and had 3 plastic bags covering her head. She previously worked as a hairdresser in Spokane, but fell into drugs and sex work 6 years after she moved, following the death of her son, who was waiting for a heart transplant. Ellis was Chippewa and the eldest of 5 children. Ellis grew up on Turtle Mountain Road Indian Reservation. Her mother moved to Spokane when Ellis was still in high school. Ellis moved between family in Washington State and North Dakota at the age of 17. She worked as a secretary for a tribal organization. She became a mother of a daughter early in life and had an abusive marriage. Of her 3 children, only her daughter Angel survives. Ellis lost both her sons in childhood, one as a baby to a sudden infant death syndrome, the other to a heart condition at the age of 11 in 96. The year prior, her mother passed away. Emily LaFontaine, Ellis's father, said he believes the boy's death contributed to Ellis' struggles with heroin. She was devastated by that. Ellis studies cosmetology and planned to be a hairstylist. She tried to get into treatment for her addiction problem, her father said, but it just didn't work. Yates was arrested on April 18, 2000 for the murder of Jennifer Joseph. After his arrest, a search warrant was executed on a white 1977 Chevrolet Corvette that had been previously owned. A white Corvette had been identified as the vehicle in which one of the victims had last been seen in. Coincidentally, Yates had been pulled over in this vehicle while the task force was searching for it, but the field interview report misread, was saying Camaro, not Corvette. Thus, the incident was not realized until after Yates had been arrested. After searching the Corvette, police discovered blood that they linked to Jennifer Joseph and the DNA from Yates that they had tied to 12 other victims. In 2000, he was charged with 13 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted first-degree murder in Spokane County Supreme Court. As a part of the plea bargain, Yates confessed to the murders to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to 408 years in prison. Charges were dropped without prejudice in the murder of Sean McLean, so that if Yates appealed his other guilty sentences, he could be tried for murder and possibly sentenced to death. Following his sentencing hearing, Yates made a statement apologizing to the families of all the victims that he had killed. In 2001, Yates was charged in Pierce County, Washington, with the murders of 2 additional women. The prosecution sought the death penalty for the deaths of Melinda L. Mercer in 1997 and Connie Ellis in 1998, which were thought to be linked to the killings in Spokane County on September 19, 2002. Yates was convicted of those murders and subsequently sentenced to death by lethal injection on October 3rd of 2002. The 2002 death sentence was appealed on the grounds that Yates believed his 2000 plea bargain to be all-encompassing and that all life sentence for 13 murders and a death sentence for 2 constituted disappropriateness, freakish, wanton, and random application of the death penalty. The arguments were rejected in the 2007 by the Washington Supreme Court. A September 19, 2008 execution date was stated by Chief Justice Jerry L. Alexander, pending additional appeals. In 2013, Yates' attorney filed a habeas corpus petition in the federal court district stating that Yates is mentally ill and, though no fault of his own, suffers from severe paraphiliac disorder that predisposed him to commit murder. The still pending motion is regarded as long shot, but most observers don't think Mr. Yates helps his case by relying on the fact that he is a necrophiliac, which means that he likes to have sex with dead people, said Pierce County prosecutor Mark Lindvis. Yates remains incarcerated at the Washington State Penitentiary, his case further complicated by Washington Governor Jay Inslee's 2013 declaration that he would not sign death warrants for anyone on death row while in his office. Inslee cited that the high cost of the appeals process and the randomness with which the death sentences are sought, and a lack of evidence that the penalty serves as a deterrent to other criminals. In July of 2015, the Washington Supreme Court once again rejected efforts by Yates to overturn his conviction and death sentence after the Washington State Supreme Court ruled in 2018 that his death penalty violated the state constitution. Yates' death sentence, as well as that of the Washington's other death row inmates, was commuted to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I don't know about y'all, but that was a tough one. I am curious, though, when these news columnists or journalists write these articles, how they come up with these names, like the grocery bag killer. Obviously, no pun intended on this. I mean, killing people with a grocery bag is a little out there, and the idea of having or being okay with having intercourse with a dead body is just a little weird. I don't really understand these people and the fact that they have extreme far side mental illness, and none of the people around them that are observing these behaviors are willing to go out there and get these individuals help. Now, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so yes, I can say this as a fact. There was not a lot of funding and there was not a lot of awareness back in the 80s and 90s for mental health or mental health issues to get these people sufficient or adequate help, because mental health was still being researched at that time, and we're coming or going through the era from one era into another where it was widely accepted to smoke and do drugs and drink and all the things that people still do now in 2023. But the mental health research and the medical industry or medicine, pharmaceutical industry, just that they didn't have the vast knowledge then that they have now to treat mental illness. But it's still no acceptable cause to be able to use mental illness as an acceptable crutch to just go on a hot binge murder spree of killing and having intercourse with dead bodies. I mean, there is obviously something more to these people's mentality and maybe the way that their brain functions, or maybe they're missing some chromosomes that make them kind of act batshit crazy. I don't know, that's just my 2 cents worth. Let me know what you all think about this case in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like, share, comment, and subscribe. As always, remember, we will be donating from now until the end of the year to St. Jude's Children's Research for Childhood Cancer. All of that funding helps the families who are seeking treatment for their children to not have to pay a single medical bill. And the reason why I'm doing this is my friend, his child, about 2 years ago had to miss all of 1st and 2nd grade because he was diagnosed with leukemia of the blood, which is a type of cancer in your blood. He is now successful, and the kid has graduated and is now in like 7th or 8th grade. But it's something that's a cause that's close to my heart. So if you feel compelled to donate or anything like that, there is a link on my Facebook page as well. Again, thank you all for supporting us and our journey, and I hope everyone enjoys our travels and our crime scene investigations. Have a blessed day. I hope everyone is doing well, and peace out. Keep exploring. Stay weird.